let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2. Alright, so before I go on, a couple of disclaimers. This is not going to be a proper review. Sort of. Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see how this video goes. It's going to be more of a rant. I did write a review. My non-spoiler review is linked down below. That being said, this video will have a lot of spoilers. You have been warned. Watch at your own risk. So, is The Last of Us Part 2 better than the first one? Yes and no. Okay, it's probably the most beautiful game that is out there at the moment. The only one I could think of that is on par with it is Red Dead Redemption 2. It has stunning scenery, especially that first part when you're in Jackson. And then you get into Seattle and that big open, semi-open, exploratory part of the game with Ellie. And whenever you get indoors, there's that terrifying feeling of claustrophobia because of how the level is designed and how the environments are designed. It's terrifying, it's beautiful, it's viscerally violent, sometimes a little bit too much maybe, but I get that that's what they were trying to go for. Another thing that is amazing about this game is the sound design. I've never heard such great sound design from a game before, especially the sound of the clickers. When you get into a zone and then there's clickers around, it's spine tingling. It's really terrifying. There is absolutely no doubt that this is a beautiful game. It is hands down one of the most beautiful games out there, and I think that is unquestionable. However, since The Last of Us is a very narrative-driven game and it's very plot-heavy and it's also very cinematic, the plot plays a really important part in the game. And that's where I had a problem. I get what the devs were trying to do. They were trying to show that violence and revenge is just a cycle. It leads nowhere. It doesn't leave you satisfied. But I gotta be honest, I didn't want to play as the girl who killed Joel for half the game. I know they were trying to get me to feel for Abby, and they were trying to get me to see from her perspective. They wanted to show us that her friends were normal too, pretty much like Ellie's friends. I get that they were trying to show that Abby had her own valid intentions for doing what she did, for killing Joel, but I didn't want to play Joel's killer, and I didn't want to. And even during that part where you play as Abby and you get to see the events of the game unfold from her perspective, that was supposed to build up some sort of connection with her and her friends. Unfortunately, I just didn't feel that sort of connection. I remember during Seattle Days 3 playing as Abby, and you had that showdown with Ellie in the theater, and there were lots of times where I kept failing and Ellie kept killing me. My reaction was basically, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. I wanted Ellie to kill Abby. I found myself playing as Abby for half of the game, and I was kind of, I gotta say, I really, as I played with Abby, the question that kept ringing in my head was, when could I play as Ellie again? When could I play as Ellie again? When could I play as Ellie again? I was expecting this to be Ellie's game. Instead, we played half of the game as her, and then we played her a little bit more towards the end, which brings me to the California part of the game, which honestly I just thought was unnecessary. I was more than happy for the game to end with Ellie and Dina at home with little JJ, and that was it. And speaking of forced plots, there's that plot with Yara and Lev, who just came out of nowhere, and their storyline didn't really serve anything aside from Abby trying to alleviate guilt from killing Joel. And I mean, I get that's what they were trying to do once again, but it just fell flat for me, and it once again felt forced. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think The Last of Us Part 2 is a great game. Should you buy it if you haven't bought it yet? Well, I mean, If you haven't bought it yet and you're watching this, I'm spoiling everything for you. I guess you don't care. But if you haven't bought it yet, should you buy it? Yeah, sure. Go for it. Despite me wanting to play as Ellie every time I played as Abby, which is half of the game, I didn't feel that the game was dragging, and I also didn't feel that the game was repetitive, despite the fact that technically what you were doing is sneaking and killing your way through the story. The gameplay had minor tweaks. There weren't really any big changes to the gameplay, but these minor tweaks were enough to make the game enjoyable for me. In that sense, along with the animation, along with the graphics, along with the stunning visuals, and once again, the sound design. I cannot stress enough the sound design. It definitely is a better game than the first Last of Us. However, although I get what Naughty Dog was trying to do with the story, the execution wasn't that great. The characters that I ended up having a connection with was Joel and Ellie, but that's a given already because of the first game. Despite the new characters that were introduced here, I didn't really feel for them, especially for Abby and her friends. Then you don't really care what happens to them. And to be honest, I didn't. So the emotional impact was dampened for me. And in that sense, its predecessor is better than The Last of Us 2. Hey, thanks for watching the whole video and listening to me rant about The Last of Us Part 2. Let me know what you think about the game, if you liked it, if you loved it, or if you hated it, or if you're somewhere in between, kind of like me. Leave it in the comments below. I also want to give out a shout out to Tyrese for allowing me to use his song Don't Need on the background of this video. I am linking everything down below so you could stream it. It's available on Apple Music and even on Spotify, so check him out. I'm also linking his YouTube below so you could watch out for any more of his releases. I am gonna do another video, another rant on a game. I won't let you know what it is, but hopefully it'll come out soon. And yeah, I don't know yet what my content is gonna be on this channel. It's probably gonna be very random, but I'd like it if you subscribe. So thanks guys, see you on the next one.